Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Gunn Show VIP edition. We appreciate you showing up. If this is your first time and you showed up because of the last name that I have with two N's and you're here because of guns that happen to be something you shoot, you're actually in luck. On this rare occasion, we are talking about guns with a longtime friend of mine. If you showed up for big muscles, I don't have a lot of those, so yeah, two different types of guns, right? And I actually make the third one of Scottish descent, which I like to say from time to time. But yes, the Gunn Show is about manufacturing and what we make in manufacturing around the world. It's a invisible industry, as we like to call it, because not a whole lot of people high-five you when you walk on the street and say, thank you for making that everything around us. Yeah, everything around us is not air and humans for the most part. We try to make it exciting and sexy and fun and enjoyable, and that's where a lot of my guests come in because they're a lot sexier, fun, and more enjoyable than I am, and I can't do this on my own, so I'm very grateful for that. So firstly, let's get to the bad joke of the day. I don't have Christian with me today. I know those of you who watch this show a lot are very used to hearing Christian. You can actually hear him roll his eyes, I think. So you can hear him roll his eyes on these bad jokes. I have my friend Benjamin with me today. So Benjamin, you ready for this bad joke?
Oh, I'm ready. You know I love them.
All right, buddy. The bad joke of the day is, what's a manufacturing plant's favorite game?
Ooh, I don't know.
Do you remember that game, Guess Who?
Yeah.
Well, it's Guess Who because no one ever guesses. It's them making everything. Da-dum. See, goes back to the invisible thing, and no one ever guesses we're making everything. All right, we'll move past the bad jokes. Sorry for that rolled eyes. How many in the audience, I think? In fact, just leave it in the comments, all the rolled eyes from the jokes, if you want to do that. Just have some fun with it. We're having a good time, over 60,000 followers on YouTube, and having a great time at MTDCNC. So, with this being an MTDCNC production, as we see here, thank you so much for empowering what we're doing here in the U.S. as we are a UK-based company grown around the world for a news and media channel. And let me not forget to thank our sponsors. IMTS is going to be a massive event this year, 2024, September, a week long. If you've not been before, we highly recommend it. If you're a student looking to get into manufacturing, the Student Summit, I'm going to misquote this completely. And I just had the ladies on from IMTS and AMT as well. But it's tens of thousands of students that go here to learn about manufacturing. And it's some of the latest and greatest technology. It's the biggest manufacturing show as a whole in the entire country that happens every year. So we invite you. And now if you see me and the Gunn Show and MTD, by all means, give me a high five as well. Take a picture. We'll have some fun. And then let's thank EBITDA Growth Systems. These guys are incredible. Whether you are a shop that's struggling and need to figure out how to get into a successful, efficient shop, or you are a successful shop, but you're looking to double your profits and maybe even sell at some point in the future, EBITDA Growth System guarantees they'll double your profits within 3 years. Tell me that's not a magic keyword right there. So with that being said, let's move into our guest, the guy we have here today, and the intro that I found on his website. And the reason why we are friends today is for many, many reasons. But occasionally, technological leaps inform both the trajectory and the velocity of progress. VKTR, which I just found out doesn't actually mean anything, which we'll talk about in a little bit. VKTR, with its super cool logo, Industries combines passion, precision, and purpose with the proprietary technology to produce exceptional firearms unlike anything else the industry has to experience to date. That's pretty powerful, but it doesn't end there, although that is powerful. I should just stop there, but we're not. Okay, never settling for what is. VKTR Industries believes firmly in evolution through design. By implementing the refinement of technical processes that deconstructs barriers of craftsmanship, VKTR has opened new possibilities of precision and has redefined the standard for excellence in firearms manufacturing. VKTR Industries has established itself within the intersection of revolutionary design and cutting-edge manufacturing capability. The team at VKTR draws from decades of engineering, manufacturing, and firearms industry experience to bring consumers a fresh new take on precision. Ooh, that last word's a tough one. Armaments? How do you say that, Dave?
Armaments.
Armaments. See, I should have gone to school longer, I tell you. And I just accidentally introduced my guest as well, so please thank my friend Dave Rybacki. He's actually the head janitor at VKTR. That's what it says on his LinkedIn. He's obviously not. What is your real title, Dave? And thank you for being here. Welcome back to the Gunn Show, my friends. This is the VIP edition.
The real title is head janitor.
Of course it is. You're not going to change that, are you?
It's on my business card. It's on my thing. If you don't get the joke, we really don't need to talk. But the joke is, the head janitor title's always been fun, but it's there because as owners and everything else, we deal with all the shit, right? Whether it's 2 a.m, whether it's 8 a.m., whether it's this or that, whether it's an employee that calls in, whether it's a problem that comes up, you just deal with it all.
Yeah. In fact, your phone buzzed right before we started hit record on this thing. You were already dealing with some stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
I turned it on Do Not Disturb.
You
so
gave
we're
your
good for an
phone
hour.
away just now
Yeah.
to Ben so you wouldn't be bothered. All right. Let's start the show off. Dave, you and I have been friends for quite a while now, and I'd like to introduce...
I think 6+ years.
Yeah, it's been a while now. I'd like to introduce this conversation by saying that Dave and I think, are a great reason or a great friendship of people who kind of sit not on opposite sides of the fence, because we both sit on the fence talking about these topics. So we don't sit on opposites, but Dave is very much, let's create some guns, let's be respectful, let's honor this trajectory that we have, let's make sure that we're being respectful to this part of the industry. And I myself have never really shot guns, and although I'm in manufacturing, have never designed, built, engineered, or really sought after shooting them or being a part of that world. But Dave and I talk a lot about how I can respect it, how others can respect it, how we can be safe about it, and how we can honor a tradition that's been for a long time. So I'm going to let you talk more about that, Dave, but I bring that up because I want to do a cheers with you to start this show off. We both enjoy a good scotch. We both enjoy a good bourbon, a good whiskey, we could enjoy a good drink from time to time. Yeah. Anything you'd like to cheers to today before we get really into the mud of this show?
Good health.
We could use some of that. And speaking of good health, you look freaking fantastic. 90 pounds in just a few months?
Since July.
Whew. I mean, this dude is getting sexier and sexier, guys. Benjamin, flip the camera on him. Let everyone see. There, he looks good.
Thank you. It's been well worth it. And anybody that is worried about men's health or that kind of stuff and everything else, getting the blood work done, checking your testosterone levels, taking the weight loss shots and doing all that stuff to help you get over that first weight loss to get you into the gym and get you moving and get your energy levels back. It's been phenomenal.
Well, I know we're here today to talk a little bit about VKTR Industries. We'll probably talk a little bit about your journey and getting into that. And certainly we'll talk about our friendship a little bit today as well. But would you like to talk a little bit about the health side of things? Because I know it's important to you right now. You've really invested yourself in making this happen, and because we've been friends so long, and I saw you at a heavier weight, and then seeing you at SHOT Show just a few months ago, I mean, we're two men going, well, this guy looks sexy, just having some fun with it, but you really do look good. I'm so proud of you. What made you want to do this? And let's talk about some of the joy that's happened as you've started to shred some of this off.
Yeah, so obviously with business ownership, employees, growing businesses, starting new businesses, obviously we own more than one, so we do some other crazy things too, with consulting, with everything else. Yeah, no, I let myself go a little too much and got up to like 351 pounds, and I'm 6'4", so it hides well, but
we call that big sexy.
It didn't hide well at 351, so I was falling asleep every day at 4 o'clock. I was losing energy. I couldn't this, I couldn't that, and just wasn't good for anything.
That's fair.
So
it's not easy, is it?
No. So I tried a CPAP one night. If you have sleep apnea, the CPAP fixes it immediately. It's the only good way to fix it. You can't get around it with any of the other stuff. So we put the octopus on every night and CPAP it up, and you finally get REM sleep back and you get sleep and everything else. And like I said, I fixed my testosterone level. So I think normally a man is supposed to have 700, I think, is the number that is kind of the normal testosterone level. I had like 82.
That seems low.
Yeah. So, shots every week, twice a week. And
testosterone shots.
Yeah, shots. Don't do the creams. Don't do the pills. They don't work. You have to take the shot. Mm-hmm. It's the only way to regulate it properly. We get our blood work done every 3 months. I just got it done again Monday just to check and everything else. If your doctor doesn't check your blood work, get a new doctor. It's not healthy for you. We keep it around the 700-800 level, and then with the I want to say Wegovy, Ozempic style weight loss shots that people are doing now, I'm on tirzepatide and 2 pounds a day in the beginning.
Wow.
And obviously it is not a diet. the diet is a fallacy. It is a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And I went hardcore carnivore on the.
Did you do the carnivore diet?
I'm still on it. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. Since
You liking
July.
it?
I love it.
I got 2 buddies that are doing testosterone shots, and I got 1 buddy thriving on the carnivore diet right now.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously the testosterone shots helped a lot just to get energy and my body hormone level and everything else back in whack and good, out of whack and back in goodness.
Yeah.
Carnivore diet, other than the first like 2 weeks, which nobody wants to talk about. But after that, once you clean out your gut and you fix everything else, I don't have cravings anymore.
Yeah.
I eat 1 or 2 meals a day. I eat till I'm full and I don't eat over. And obviously from a guy that was 351 pounds and loved food, we don't really order appetizers or that kind of stuff anymore, but I just had lunch with a buddy down here before this and pick a steakhouse, crush a ribeye, and you're good, right?
Sure,
you know?
yeah. Are you pretty strict with it as well? I know my buddy's like, at least in the beginning, once he was fine-tuning his own body, he's like, no salt, no pepper, no spice. I mean, it was just, it was meat, and it was tons of meat, but it was about as bland as you could get it because he was testing what the truth of it was.
Yeah, so I've gone pretty hardcore. I haven't gone that hardcore. I would say 7 things: fish, chicken, steak, bacon, eggs, and cheese.
You do cheese as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm a salt fiend, so salt, pepper, seasonings, and that kind of stuff.
A little pinch of salt is good for you.
Handful.
Yeah.
But, started the salt and that kind of stuff also. And no pop, no soda, whatever part of the country you're from, whatever you call it. No juices, no sugars, no that kind of stuff. Very rarely salad. I will say that I've started to cheat a little bit. Thank you, Mother, for your birthday this weekend. The chocolate cake was delicious. But just really, if I stay on it and I'm home and I'm not traveling and I'm not doing that stuff, and you're not getting pressured into cheating on your 7 things, then it's great.
Yeah. That's fair. The travel lifestyle I have, I have a completely different way of trying to remain healthy, but it's not easy. And kudos to you.
The amount of times we've randomly walked past each other in airports all over the country.
High five, hug it out, and move on to our flight, right?
I think you were going to, not Indonesia. Where were you going when I saw you for Christmas with your family?
Bali. I was headed to Singapore and Bali.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're literally walking through here, and it's like, hey, Tony, what's going on? And
well, with your millions of miles, you could do whatever you want. I do love this topic, although I don't think our podcast is dedicated. Well, I'm going to start a new podcast about health and natural healing and all that kind of stuff as well. I'll bring Dave back for that. So I want to get into the manufacturing side because I think that's a lot of our audience. You and I met a few years ago. Can I bring up the company we met at?
Yeah.
Yeah. DRG.
DR Guns, yeah.
Yep. And I walked in and I saw some of the most modern, or at least more modern, but possibly most modern, and the world knows how much I travel filming inside of factories around the world and learning about technology and then applying that information into conversations to allow other people to learn. I walked into one of the more or most modern automated shops that I have been into.
We've done some stupidity.
And I was going to say coolness, but if you want to say stupidity, you're cool. The machines I saw, the Nakamura's, the robo drills, the automated cells. I don't know how much we can actually. We filmed a lot of this, so I think we can actually talk about it. Yeah, we're free.
We're free.
Cool. So, but it was only just a couple of employees running around making sure things were running 24/7. That was when we first met, and we were having a great time. And you were educating me on how much can get done through these automated cells as long as these cells are working as they should.
Yes. So obviously, when we built DRG Manufacturing and that kind of stuff, and we had to change the name from DR Guns to DRG Manufacturing because we got thrown out of a couple banks for guns. We got thrown out of this. FANUC would always hold our machines in Japan, releasing us for software and everything because of the treaties after World War II. It goes all the way back to that because we wanted 4th Axis, which is high technology, and you're a gun manufacturer, so we have to get government approval. So DRG Manufacturing, became the name of the company and that kind of stuff. And now with Vector, VKTR, we call it Vector Industries and that kind of stuff, we made sure with the new one to make sure that guns and nothing was involved in the actual name of it because
you want to stay in the bank.
We have to live within the world that the handcuffs they give us And yeah, I've been thrown out of 3 banks. I was on my flight to SHOT Show, and the credit cards got canceled, and a check showed up the next day.
Mm. That is.
Go find a new bank.
Because of a logo or a brand or
Just
a
'cause
shirt you were wearing, or
just because you're in the gun manufacturing.
how you were making money. They found out how you were making money. Well,
So obviously you
interesting.
give them your FFL.
Sure.
The township has to agree that you have an FFL, the federal firearms license, for anybody that doesn't know. I mean, you're regulated. So it's not like...
Should we go down that rabbit hole on this podcast? Should we talk about that?
Whatever you want.
Man, I feel like that's a subject that's so controversial that who knows the type of comments we'll get after this podcast, but that is our Second Amendment right,
Correct.
is to bear arms.
Correct.
And yet you still run into these controversies because...
So when the Founding Fathers created the United States, the Constitution and everything else, the first thing they said was, you can kind of say whatever you want with your freedom of speech. Then they said you're going to need a gun to be able to do that.
Right.
And everything else follows.
I remember the comedians talking about the black powder guns and the patience that comes from taking a moment out to pack the weapon before. Yep. but it did stem in that order, right?
Yeah.
So, oh gosh. I don't want this to be too controversial, but I have to talk about it, right? That's what these podcasts are for, and I have Dave here, an expert, so why don't I? And just to be fair, Dave has asked me to help him film some really interesting expeditions in places like Argentina and Texas. He's even educated me on some of the big game hunting that's out there, like grizzlies and elephants. You remember educating me on those two stories as well.
I'm not a big elephant hunter, but I understand why they do it.
Right, you educated me. So I've learned a ton from you. So I guess let's play around this rabbit hole then. So we live in a country. First Amendment was to be able to talk about it. Second Amendment is to be able to own the rights. And yet you still run into a lot of controversy, even with banks, obviously.
Banking's very liberal. It's mostly on the East Coast. It's mostly in that kind of stuff. And they have a right, just like any business, to choose who you do and don't do business with. I don't believe they have a right to go against the Constitution and that kind of stuff. I think you should have fair practices for legal things. We are federally regulated. We are state regulated. We are audited by the feds and that kind of stuff. And we are held liable if we do something wrong. But I guess the most controversial statement you can make is the gun is an inanimate object, just like your car is. You don't sue Ford when you drive your car drunk. Cheers, I guess.
Gosh, no, not cheers into that.
Right? Ford doesn't get sued when you drive your car drunk for misuse of an inanimate object. The problem is, the misconception in the gun world is that the gun's the most expensive part. The physical metal firearm is the cheapest part of your experience, and it should be. The ammunition, the safe, the training, and the training to know how to use the ammunition, the gun, and the safe, and be a responsible person should be the most expensive part of your journey in this.
Dave, if it's okay with you, I'm going to take this opportunity to use your expertise on a level that will probably educate me again, which I'm going to be grateful for. This is obviously a platform where we have followers around the world. And in America, I was just in Korea, and the game for video games was a cowboy when you were shooting, based on American characters. So
Cowboys and Indians.
We're known for our guns. And in some parts of the world, this conversation is going to be, kind of one of those. But here in America, there's going to be people who are going to, cheer you on and clap for you, and this is something that's very important, right?
Yeah.
I would like to, if you can, just kind of tear away at some of the, let's say, opposite sides' concerns and worries that as a pro-gun person, because I would make the discussion...
Pro-responsible
Pro-responsible, right?
Yes. Legal, responsible gun ownership.
Because a stereotype sitting on a side, not me personally, but listening to people who sit on another side says there's not enough education, there's not enough training, there's not enough of these things, and that's why there's trouble, right? So let's break down some of these barriers of conversation.
And that's where the misconception that the firearm's the most expensive part needs to change.
That's what made me think of that question, actually, when you brought that up.
The firearm's not the most expensive part. The training, the learning how to use it, and I'm not like the tactical ninja guy, right? I'm in the manufacturing world and prints and processes and that kind of stuff, right? There's guys that know how to shoot way better than I do, and I don't even joke that I know what I'm doing. But I know how to safely handle a firearm. I know how to make sure that they're safe. I know how to make sure they're loaded or unloaded. I know how to shoot at a pretty decent level, but I'm not a sniper. I'm not an ex-military guy that's had amount of training. And one of the things I want to do in the next 10 years or so is go through a lot of those classes that I just haven't had time to now to learn and that kind of stuff. But hunting, responsible hunting and that kind of stuff, like you said with Argentina, the dove down there eat a third of the crops. So they bring high volume shooters in from around the world to go shoot 2,000 dove a day each or 1,000 dove a day each because they have 50 million dove. So if the first thing you go to is say, I'm going to start my business, but I'm going to lose 33% of my profit up front or even my revenue up front, you would try and fix that.
And excuse my ignorance, but I believe that Argentina is highly agriculture as well.
Oh, hugely agriculture. Oh, yeah. Best beef in the world.
So based on that, 33% profits, I imagine this is detrimental to what they're trying to create down there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, literally 33% of your field in Cordoba is going to get eaten by the dove.
It's an interesting stat, right? Because it does flip the script on why certain things are done or how to carry out responsible situations.
Correct. And Argentina and basic, and everyone, again, we have property down there and we go back and forth way too much, but Argentina has really, truly kind of like organic practices without being like certified organic.
All the pesticides and stuff that might fight off the...
They don't do it.
Right.
So instead of spraying the crops with everything to try and repel the dove and kill them and that kind of stuff, they shoot them. And they get Americans to come down and pay them to shoot them.
Okay, I'm seeing, I don't love murder a whole lot, but I am seeing some wins here.
I don't like pesticides and...
Whether it's pesticides or a gun, right? I think probably being poisoned would be worse than just finishing it off, right?
Yeah.
And also, you said making money, and also, at the end of the day, the pesticides aren't going into the humans.
They're not going to the humans, not going in the ground, they're not going in the drinking water, they're not going into everything else that...
The other animals as well, yep.
Yeah.
The whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that's what pesticides kind of do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Certain things are good and certain things are not good. I do like an onion that I don't cry when I cut, but I also understand the biology behind it. It's kind of messed up.
I thought you were a crier.
I'm always a crier.
I thought you were a sensitive guy, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to the manufacturing side of things, and we'll probably just continue to sway into these conversations, but I'm going to try and pull it back from time to time. Automation is all, because what I want to do, Dave, is with this new company of yours, and you've been doing really well. I'm looking at your site right now and looking at, the VK-1 rifle, your VK-1 PW, rifle, complete bolt carrier group. I mean, your manufacturing, even the statement at the beginning of the About page, it's a powerful statement. So I need to help the audience, because I know you well, figure out how we got here to this elite level of creation, and I know you and what you've built. I've seen you with the folks at Hydromat. I've seen you making some automation cells that I had never seen before. You took me into a back room and said, we can't talk about this one, we can't film this one, but I saw parts popping off like crazy, and the way you were doing it was inspiring to me on the manufacturing side. So let's build that repertoire of who you are and what you've created now and why you can make these statements on your About page of your website, and people can trust and believe that.
At EBITDA Growth Systems, we guarantee to double your value in 3 years. Well, instead of telling you about a guarantee, how about if I tell you a story? We had a shop owner come to us at an event saying, I'm not sure if you can help us. He said, we have our credit lines maxed out in our business. I have a second mortgage on my home, it's maxed out. I'm not sure what to do. I have a payroll coming up next week and I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Can you help us? We said we weren't sure, so we came in and we came alongside of him. In 18 months, he went from not having any money to having over $800,000 in the bank and having a 6 times exit what his value was at that day. And now he's living a life that he always dreamed of with his family. And it's fantastic, and that's what's really rewarding for us, and that's what EBITDA Growth Systems is all about. If you want to know more about EBITDA Growth Systems, go to www.ebitagrowthsystems.com, EBITDA growthsystems.com, and go to our contact page where I will reach out to you personally.
So we built a company called DR Guns, turned it into DRG Manufacturing. I sold it to my sister a year and a half ago or so. And I moved out of Illinois. I'm down in Missouri now with Vector and that kind of stuff on 12.5 acres, loving it. But she's turned it into Outer Wild Manufacturing now and running under that brand name and everything. And yes, the automation, I always say the luckiest thing I had was when we built it from scratch is that my father wasn't a 5th generation machinist. I didn't walk into a shop with 100 machines that did random things, right?
Remember you telling me that actually several years ago.
Yeah.
That's a quote in an interview actually.
Yeah, so we were able to build it with brand new equipment from scratch for a purpose. And the 6-year process was we built a $2 million plus automation cell per part. So there's 5 major parts in an AR-15 that are 1, expensive, and 2, hard to get by and a barrier to entry. So the upper and the lower, the handguard, the barrel, and the complete bolt carrier group. So that kind of springs, triggers, pins, all that kind of stuff, never buy a machine to make springs. There's plenty of companies running old, awesome battleship spring things that just make them every half second, right? So we took the 5 hardest parts and set out on a journey to just make them perfectly and build the process from scratch on the right equipment. Again, our opinion of the right equipment and that kind of stuff on how to do it. And we wanted to put robots on it so that we could get to this 8-hour a day manned, 16 hours a day unmanned, and never make a bad part twice.
I mean, that's where we all want to be, right? If we have the components that we can put out, that's what we all want to be.
So it has to be very process driven.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't cheat, you can't skip, you can't revolutionize a new process that skips 3 operations. You just have to understand what the end goal is and then break down the processes per part and put in the redundancy, put in the things, and make sure that whatever your goal is, 12 hours of automation, 16 hours or 20 hours of automation or that kind of stuff, your in feeds, your out feeds, your checking and everything in process does it.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's in process CMMs, if that's building a process and that, if it's tool check, tool breakage and everything in the middle, if it's doing the cheaper manufacturing route and then doing outside processes like grinding or honing or those types of things to fix certain things that you didn't hold perfectly in the machine, concentricities or that kind of stuff, well, you can make the part less expensive, faster, and better, get it through heat treat, see where it warps a little bit, then shove it through ID and OD grinding like we do for all of our bolt carrier groups. And whether the heat treater moved at 6/10 or 5/10, we don't care. We've got 8 thou worth of grind stock on it where concentricities are going to be perfect to ID to OD.
Mm-hmm.
So we grind the OD of our bolt carrier group first, then we grab it on the OD, the ground surface, and we grind our 3 IDs. ID to OD concentricity is perfect. Our surface finish is a 5 or a 6 on the ID. So when we nitride, bolt carrier groups now, instead of mil-spec and chrome and phos, the gas rings on the inside are riding on glass. It's a 6. But we can't plunge grind. We have to oscillate grind. We have to this, we have to that. We have to air gauge. We have to do certain things in that process that everyone's like, why do you grind? We all just hard turn. Well, yeah, I know why you hard turn. You get a hard turning, you'll get a 18. Hard turning, you'll get a 27. Honing, you'll get an 18. Grinding, we get a 6. So there is something about it's too smooth at certain points for things to stick and everything else. You got to rough it back up. But for nitriding, it's perfect.
Can we talk about, because you mentioned all these in-process pieces that are important.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to, you said 8 hours with manned, 16 hours unmanned. Nobody wants to come into a shop with a whole bunch of scrap parts.
No.
So let's talk about the importance of those in-process components.
Yeah.
But let's also talk about, as you've mentioned, the different styles of creating this finish, how many different times you had to fail in order to figure out what was right. Because we have to do that based on your description just now. Yep. There's no way you know that without trying another route.
So on the true military print for a bolt carrier group, it says grind after finish. I'll agree with everybody right now. I know how to make $70,000 more a month.
Okay.
Stop grinding. We grind 10,000 carriers a month. It's complete for a bolt and a carrier. This or that. It's about $7-8. I know where my 70 grand a month is. I can hard turn it cheaper, but then I'm going to break the hard turn, tool because of the 3 holes coming through the side bore. I've got this. Well, if I hone it, the hone follows the hole. It doesn't fix concentricities. So now I've got to go back to the lathe, put a guy in front of it, and really check concentricities because I'm not fixing them in grinding. I'm just sizing, right? So there's pluses and minuses to everything. We can run a combo tool, knock out our 3 ID bores, leave 8 thou stock, 4 thou aside, plop it through off the lathe in 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes as a form tooled blank. Take that universal blank, throw it in a robo drill on centers, on an ID mandrel and a tailstock, cut it to 20 different designs for 200 different gun manufacturers, right? It's universal. We don't go off the slot. We don't do this. We don't do that. It's all, we create it all right there after the blank. And grab it, heat treat it. We vacuum heat treat it. We don't regularly heat treat it because we don't want it to bend.
Is this done in-house as well?
No, we use a great company up in Illinois called Scientific. They're phenomenal.
I know them, actually, yeah.
They're great. So
Good group.
don't use them. They're terrible.
Because you don't want the competition.
Don't fuck up our supply chain. But no, they're great guys. They do phenomenal work. They put a ton of stuff through.
I think some of the best compliments we can give is to tell people don't do it because we need it more.
Yeah. They're great. Don't use them.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about, you've called it Vector now, VKTR, right?
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a Vector. The logo's super cool, by the way, Industries. What would you currently say that you're working on, currently manufacturing, currently doing that an end user, a buyer, would say, I want to go work with Dave, I want to buy this product? What are you guys doing differently? Where do you excel? As I scroll through your site looking at this cool stuff.
99% of AR-15s on the market right now are probably DI driven. So they're direct impingement. So you have a gas block, you have a gas tube, and gas goes through the hole in the barrel, into the block, and down the tube. The gas goes into the bulk carrier group and cycles the gun. You can't do much with it at that point to fix recoil and that kind of stuff without adding buffer weights, spring weights, and other things to the back end to slow down the cyclic rate. So the bulk carrier group going back and forth is the cyclic rate of how fast that gun will automatically reload and fire. Where with Vector Industries, we have a patented short stroke piston system. So we have a gas block, but we have a gas nozzle on it. And then we have a one-piece op rod that goes over that nozzle. And when gas moves an inch instead of 7 inches, it fires the op rod, which mechanically hits the carrier and sends it back. The difference with our system is the self-regulating piston system. It's not adjustable. It self-regulates. So 55 grain ammo, 79 grain ammo, 69 grain ammo, 62 grain, suppressor on, suppressor off, all that type of stuff, it dumps gas mid-stroke after function. So we have 3 holes, and then we have 3 more holes right after those 3 holes. The first 3 holes start the function and get it to function. Mechanically, however far that overgas dumps the op rod further back for milliseconds and time and all that kind of mechanical thing. The other 3 holes open for a millisecond, 2 milliseconds, halfway, all the way, and then all 6 holes open and we just dump gas.
Dave, listening to you talk about this, it sounds like a significant advancement, but you seem so open to talk about it. Is this not...
It's all patented.
I was going to say, it has to either be patented. Something's going on here.
There's 8 utility patents on the complete weapons system. So we stick a pin in the barrel behind the gas hole so the gas block slides over the pin and can't go this way, right? Then we put a pin through the gas block here so the gas block can't go this way. Well, if it can't go this way and it can't go this way, it's perfectly aligned every time.
Wow. How did you get to the point where you knew that this was a solution?
So every firearm the government has bought in the last 3 to 4 years has been short stroke piston system. So there's a short stroke piston system, there's a long stroke piston system, and there's a DI system. So AKs are long stroke, where you have something physically connected and bolted or welded to the carrier, and then the whole operational rod and carrier are all connected and move it with once. Where we have like a 3-piece system where you have the nozzle, the op rod, and the carrier. So the op rod is spring assisted to go back home after function and gas released, and the carrier does its thing. So after it hits the carrier, the op rod goes home, and then the carrier goes back. With our system, we run a carbine buffer and a carbine spring for weight, where most people are running H2s, H3s. It matters. There's 2 tungsten weights, there's 3 tungsten weights instead of steel weights. So you're adding more ounces, and you're adding more spring pressure to the back of the gun to slow the carrier down. And then the other big thing with us is our bolt carrier group cam path, we call it our long advanced cam path, has a true 22.5 degree rotation like Stoner wanted. A regular TDP gun has a 20.7 degree cam path, so we dwell locked for 2 degrees longer. So after the bullet leaves the barrel, we dump about 15 to 20,000 PSI, mattering ammo load and everything else. So our gun operates at a lower operating pressure, so it's automatically we've dwelled the cyclic rate and slowed it down.
You know, coming from an engineering background and not ever making guns,
Yeah.
but making lots of other things and being, you know, in charge of R&D departments, I understand
The concept.
the math, yeah, and the trial that goes into figuring this stuff out.
Yep.
It couldn't have been overnight. But just the mindset of thinking there's something that's got to be better, something we can do better. How did that journey go? Was it like you were laying in bed and a light bulb went off? You go,
So
that's what will work. Let's run a test.
So I own the patent on the ambidextrous, fully ambidextrous lower receiver. I licensed the 7 other patents from the engineer that created the operating system and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
So many, many years ago, 20 years ago, Paul Letnerwise created the Letnerwise Rifle Company, LWRC. And they had the kind of first self-regulating system and everything else. And now 20 years later, he's no longer with that company and he's on his own. And 20 years later, he's kind of advanced and perfected his first levels of patents and created this new system where it's been used around the world. It's been around for a while. I've known about it for 5 or so years. And I finally just called Paul one day and I was like, hey, I want to make complete weapon systems. We have this fully ambidextrous lower receiver that locks back and releases on the right-hand side. We do this or that. I want to pair your, top half to it, your upper with your piston system and everything else, and create a brand and create a baby and bring it to market. Are you doing anything with it? Can I license it? And he's like, yeah, let's talk. Because thankfully he knew what I didn't know then was the sheer cost of doing this. And that's where, going back to the machine shop and everything, with those 5 parts of how we built DRG manufacturing and that stuff for those 5 parts, there's a high barrier to entry. So it keeps, I don't want to say the riffraff because it's the wrong terminology, but it keeps the guys out of doing it in high volume. Mm-hmm. There's probably 7 or 8 of us in the country that do high volume bulk carrier groups really, really well. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of guys that buy the cheapest part from other people that just make one of the parts instead of all the parts.
Some things don't change depending on whatever you're making, does it?
Nope, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So when you piecemeal from the lowest bidder across everything and then wonder why things don't function the way you want them to.
Didn't our car industry have that issue about 40 years ago or something like that, trying to piecemeal parts from around the world?
Yeah, but they fixed it with just in time. Just kidding. But yes, obviously the lowest bidder is not the best thing. Quality standards matter.
I'd imagine in some cases like this one, even more so than other cases where quality matters.
I mean, a lot of the manufacturers that were doing parts and everything didn't know what a CMM was.
Oh, come on. I mean, Don't get me wrong. When I was younger, I didn't know what a CMM was either. But I feel like if I'm trying to make quality components, I would educate myself. Go onto YouTube, Google it, something.
So, you know,
Benjamin, you probably don't know, right? CMM just pretty much means we always say the CMM is pretty much how you figure out if your quality is good. It's a measurement system that measures every angle, every corner. What's the roughness, whatever you want to measure, you can measure, right? So we always say you can't make something that can't be measured. And if these folks aren't even using CMM, they're just making whatever they want without any kind of quality control.
Well, just you plug gauge the hole and you use a height gauge on a table, and we don't take so long to do that, so we only do it once a day.
Because your parts are perfect.
Yeah, right? And then, again, it goes back to processes and all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, our concentricity is slightly out when we run it on the lathe, probably. You know, we're a thou out, or this doesn't matter. We're taking 4 thou out of each side, and we're fixing our concentricities perfectly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by doing the processes, you give and take, right? You can either put the guy in front of the lathe and have him check everything on the centers and check your concentricities and check everything's good and make sure everything's perfect. Or you can grind after heat treat, hard turn, you know, after it's hard and everything. And that way you don't have to put the guy in front of the lathe. You can run a bar feeder with extenders on it, right? You run an edge bar feeder. It's the cheapest automation you can buy. They're right. It's the best. I'm not going to argue with Edge on the bar feeders.
Shout out to St. Louis Edge Technologies, by the way.
Yeah. For a lathe to not either A, load blanks in by hand and open the door every time, B, run 4-foot bars through the headstock or anything like that, a 12-foot bar feeder is the cheapest automation you can buy.
Yeah.
And on a turn thing like that, you got to, again, like in the automation cell, you got to worry about your in-feed and your out-feed. Just because you have 12 hours of in-feed doesn't mean you have 12 hours of out-feed. The roto rack tables, the sorting, the conveyors, and everything to get the parts out of there afterwards are just as important. We like the rotary tables with lines in them because we can track back 8 hours of time. You know, part comes out, table moves 3 to 6 inches, whatever, how long your part is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your parts don't hit each other. You don't have to put a water bucket down there, a slide,
Hopefully.
and all that kind of stuff. It just comes out the conveyor, drops down, and it moves 6 inches, and then the next one comes. And then, you know, eventually you get X amount of time, and then you get a pile of parts that slightly rubbed at the end. They're erasing, you know?
I like that you gave that shout out to Edge. Rick Bauer, we like you, buddy. Keep up
he's
the
a
good
great
work.
guy.
Yeah,
Kevin
for
Meehan,
sure.
all of them
Kevin
are
as
great.
well. Yep. All those, and Dan. We may as well just call them all out. They're great people.
Yeah.
I think we've done a decent job of letting the audience know who you are from the technology side of things. It's obvious to me that your brain is incredible. I love learning from you. The capability with these patents is obviously something that people will seek after. I think we've done a good job of helping people understand. I would love to get back and make this whole story full circle and get back to your passion side, Dave, and go, how did you get into this? Were you just a little young man with your dad shooting guns? Was there something that happened in your life? Was it just the ability to create and manufacture something and then the love came later?
So
how did you get into this from, let's say, the genesis of it?
So we never went back for senior year in college. We started a liquor and olive oil import company.
I'm out of here. You kidding me?
Right? Looked in the mirror and said, well, I don't need a piece of paper to work for myself, so might as well just not spend the money. We were down in Argentina doing stuff. We found an olive oil factory that did just amazing, like, flavored olive oils, where, like, most of the time you go to an Italian restaurant, there'll be a bottle of olive oil or something they call an olive oil on the table, and there'll be a bunch of stuff in the bottle that they're infusing it with, right?
Mm-hmm. And it'll say cold pressed.
Yeah, it'll say cold press. It'll say all the good marketing terms.
Yep.
They never check the pH level, and most of it's not olive oil because they give it away for free.
Right.
But we were down there. We found this great farm. They were running a pure leasing machine for olive oil, but they were also growing basil, chili peppers, oregano, rosemary, and all the other cool stuff. And they were running it through the pure leasing machine also to get the pure oil extract out. And then when they blended, it no longer separated. So, like, some of the times when you buy olive oil on the shelf that's flavored, it says shake before using, and it separates. This never separated.
Okay. And this eventually gets us into making guns?
Yeah. So
we're doing olive oil right now.
yeah. So
Interesting.
We first deal we ever did was with Williams-Sonoma. We had 90-day terms with the factory. We had 30-day terms with Williams-Sonoma, and we had a 30-day or a 26-day shipping window from Argentina to Chicago.
Okay, it seems tight.
Yep. So we bring the container into Florida, 2-person hot shot truck it up, repack it all overnight with a bunch of friends from Boy Scouts and everything else.
This is right out of college or didn't go your senior year of college. Okay.
Yep. Repack it, relabel it, or stick the label on the bottom, put it in the new box and everything else. Ship it to Williams-Sonoma's distribution center in Tennessee, and it goes nationwide, and they sell out in like 4 days because we gave them bottles for tastings and flavors and everything else so they could do the in-store tastings and show people, and it was gone. So they order again. That funded the entire company, and we never put $1 in, right?
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So grew that. We still do that. We still flavor olive oil and all that kind of stuff and mix it, blend it, and sell it to a bunch of the little stores around the country. You can walk in and taste your own Foosties and out of the little...
You still do this?
Yeah, we still do it.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's there. So no longer do the liquor or the wine or the olive oil or the wine and liquor part of it. We got out of that. Invested in a company with some friends that did automotive card jewelry.
May I pause you for just a second? We'll get right back into this automotive card jewelry, as you just said.
Yeah.
Is this also why you're passionate about that Dove situation, losing 33%, is because you're doing crops in Argentina?
Yeah, we're building an olive plantation
No
down there and some other
freaking. See,
stuff.
I knew it'd come
We got
back
a
around.
winery.
Look at that. That's okay. Back to the. What would you say about the?
Automotive card jewelry. So that's the first time I met a CNC
And that's the
machine.
thing, huh?
Yeah,
Automotive card jewelry. Okay.
So if you got a 60s or 70s old muscle car, we were building billet dashes, billet sill plates, get rid of your stamped body by Fisher, shifting knobs and balls, shifting shifter plate covers, door vents out of billet and all that kind of stuff. And that's the first time I really met a CNC machine and learned about manufacturing, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned how to run the CNC machines. We learned how to, and by run, I mean, take a part out, put a part in, how to tighten a vise, how to loosen a vise, how to run different ops, why different ops mattered, and how to flip a part and why you can only get to certain things and how X, Y, and Z matter on a, Haas.
Self-taught?
Hard knocks.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
It's
I'm
a
not
knock life.
I'm not a machinist, and I'll fully say that I'm not a machinist. They're awesome people. I am one that'll break shit. But
these days, for the first 12 years, I would call myself a machinist. These days, I break shit with you.
Yeah, no, that's the guys laugh at me. We've put a robot through a fence. We've done some stupid shit.
Gosh,
But
where's that video?
it's on the cameras. They have it. Anytime I mouth off in the shop, they bring
it up.
Yeah. So the safety fence worked.
That's good to know.
Yeah. But learning and some really great Polish craftsmen off the boat, really true craftsmen that knew manufacturing, knew machining, knew CNC, and crazy pair of brothers, and they're still there today.
Look, right now, kids are looking at what they're going to be doing in the future, and some of them don't even know what a career in manufacturing could look like. So what we're trying to do is support organizations and initiatives that are telling kids what a career in manufacturing is. So help us give back by purchasing Shop Floor Coffee. You can find us at shopfloorcoffee.com. We're on LinkedIn. Contact us. Let us know how we can support you and your organization.
I'm going to just bring up
For us
something.
now.
Did you, and Ben, you're included in this as well. You're welcome to shake your head, turn on your microphone, whatever you want. But did you grow up with that stereotype, that statement, dumb Polak?
So
not real. Almost
my
every
dad's
Polish
100%
person I've met is so smart.
My dad's 100% Polish. Growing
Yeah,
up in
I agree.
Chicago, I'm 50% Polish and 50% mutt, English mutt with my mom and everything else. No, the Polish community is
Brilliant. Yeah. In fact,
hardworking.
right now, Poland's taking on a lot of Germany's work because it's a little less expensive with equal quality. The
If not
Polish
better.
people are brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know how that joke ever. Do you know how that joke came up?
No.
Me
I'd love
neither.
to know.
But
if somebody's in the comments would like to educate us on how
Please.
dumb Polak became a thing,
please.
it's like jumbo shrimp. It's an oxymoron. It's not true at all. But
Right.
they are brilliant.
Yes. Yes.
So Mario, the one brother, came over first. John came later. I met John first, then we met, Mario and that kind of stuff. And John always taught us, he's like, listen, we have a block of material and we're going to pull something out of it. And through the manufacturing process and everything else, it's freaking cool.
Yeah, and that is kind of in the simplest form what we do, isn't it?
We pull
you have
something
a block
out of it.
of raw material and you pull it out of a hat, right?
Yeah.
You pull something, yeah.
When that eagle got made, it started as a block.
It did indeed. Oh, everything on this table started in some form or another of
somebody
raw
has
material.
to know how to run the tool paths, remove the material in the appropriate fashion to not bend and to meet a tolerance and to make it look right and finish a surface and semi-finish it and then finish it and then do the processes of, listen,
Oh, the intricacies that go into it.
how to make a hole, and how to make a proper hole.
There are companies out there that only do that.
And there's companies out there that fuck it up every day.
Sure. But that's how sometimes a hole can be difficult. And there are
Yes.
companies that are 100% focused on making holes.
Yes, some people believe that Dolly Parton was flat. No, Dolly Parton was not flat, and that surface is not flat. So when you get into the micron level and the craziness of things, everyone's like, it's round. It's like, no, that's an egg. Why? Because the pin doesn't fit in it. It's eggy. Gas blocks. We fight all the time until if you cheat the process on how to make a proper good gas block, it turns into an egg. At heat treat, it turns into an egg. At nitride, it turns into an egg all the time if you don't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is you can't make the hole round. Well, it's in a vise
Why is that?
because there's pressure on it. And as soon as you
Okay,
release the
yeah.
vise,
Yep.
it's no
and
longer
changes
a hole,
again. Yeah,
right?
yeah, you're right. Okay. Thank you for clarifying
Yeah,
that for me.
no, yep.
It makes sense now that you say it.
So when you want to put a 750 honed, perfect freeboard round hole around a 749.5 barrel turned on a lathe, perfectly round and everything else, you want a good gas seal between the two, you don't want an egg.
Of course not. How do you make that happen?
You have to hone the gas block
Okay.
after it's out of its, you have to leave two thou
Yeah.
and then
Clean it up
free-
after.
but by hand
Really?
on a honing mandrel and that, because you can't clamp it again. It's thin walled, right?
Okay. Stupid question for you. Any of this magnetic or vacuum plated or anything that doesn't need to be squeezed?
We've machined some things on double-sided carpet tape.
It's getting stickier these days, isn't it?
Listen, don't buy the generic brand.
No, don't. Not in that situation. You'll break the plexiglass in your machine for sure, which I've
yeah.
done before.
Oh yeah, that's part of the fun.
Okay, so I still don't think I've learned how your passion got to, because you are passionate.
Oh, very,
You're
very, yeah.
And we started with olive oil, and we've dropped out of our senior year, and we've made a ton of money off of this stuff, and then we got into car decoration of
Yep.
But
So-
where does the passion come from, Dave?
Grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dad was working and everything else and gone, so Mom put me in Boy Scouts, and
Is it Boy Scouts that did it? Are you an Eagle Scout?
I'm an Eagle Scout.
Nice.
I got my Eagle Scout. So every summer you go to camp and you go shoot shotguns, you shoot 22s, and you do all that kind of stuff for a couple weeks, and then you come back and,
There was a love for it then when that happened.
Mom's like, no, you can't have a gun, and then it's like, well,
Red Ryder
now-
BB gun?
Now I'm gonna have 600 of them, so
How many guns do you have?
it's over 300 to 400 right now.
Well, if everything does go to rubbish, I'm coming
But
to
it's
your
in a
house,
vault.
if that's okay.
They're locked up. It's behind a safe door. They're, none of my guns have ever killed a human. So
I think that's respectful to say now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At the end of the show, as none of them have killed a
the
human.
liberals would say, they kill everything without a human intervention. I'd say they're all faulty because they haven't done it yet. I can put a gun on the table. It's not going to shoot you,
Be real weird if it did.
right?
Yeah.
The spoon didn't make me fat is another good comment.
I think so. I'm gonna play. If it's okay with you, I'll
Yeah.
play devil's advocate real quick. I think the discussion for that often is that all of that is absolutely true. But if someone does have a bad day, a gun can do a far lot worse than a spoon.
Correct.
Yeah.
And just like 2 days ago in Australia, so does a knife when you get stabbed.
Which is bad, but still, a gun would have been worse.
I don't know if I'd rather be stabbed or shot.
Oh, getting one. I might just want to be finished off.
Well, Well, I mean,
But as far
I have a
as
sense
the-
to want to live, but
the total detrimental thing that could happen to a group of people.
correct,
Right.
correct.
But that doesn't mean that I'm against guns. I'm trying to be the practical minded person for a conversation. Well, so the passion came from Boy Scouts, which you are an Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
And when you were first
I
shooting
learned
the
more in
guns,
Boy Scouts and getting my Eagle Scout than I ever did in college.
Okay, Ben, I got to do it. Can you get your Eagle Scout out? Can you get your... No, that's a bad song, guys, but I had to do it. But okay, so you were doing this, and your mom said, "No Red Ryder BB guns for you," to quote an old Christmas movie. But this is when it started to grow in you. And at what point did you take I'm an Eagle Scout, where I learned more than I ever did in college, an Eagle Scout, and combine that passion with the manufacturing side? What's the transition from doing olive oil and car stuff into I'm going to do this now?
The car stuff is where we got into the machining.
Right. And that was when you started combining the original passion to...
Unfortunately, right after Sandy Hook.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yep. So right after Sandy Hook, we started getting some inquiries. We started getting, hey, can you make this part? Hey, can you make this part? And a lot of them were firearm parts, because the industry went crazy and you couldn't get a lot of the parts, the 5 hard ones and everything else. So we started doing billet uppers, billet lowers, and that kind of stuff. We got our federal firearms license. We did all that kind of stuff, and the gun stuff stayed, and the car parts went. And it grew
here we
from
are.
there.
So, all right, as we're closing down on some time here, as we both see the clock over here, what does the future hold? And as we talk about that future a little bit, and I'm looking at your website, let me just go ahead and give that a shout out while I'm here as I click it so I can read it better, as I'm getting older and blinder. VK Victor, what would K be?
Oh, God.
I don't know.
Everybody asked this question. They're like, come on, come up with a cool name.
Victor, Kim, Tony, anyway, VKTRIND.com is the website, without me doing all of the bad acronyms to go along with it. But that is the website. Check them out. Definitely worth working with, as you can tell from Dave here. Very knowledgeable. Been doing this a long time, a couple of different companies. So worth taking a look. If you have a question, give him a shout. He'll answer all your questions.
My cell phone's on the website.
Yeah, other than him not having his cell phone right now during the podcast, it's always on him. I promise you. He will answer or call you right back. So a little shout out there. What does the future hold for you and the company, and what kind of messages would you like to give to the audience listening right now?
Responsible gun ownership is expensive. The physical firearm is the cheapest part of your experience, or should be the cheapest part of your experience going through this world with mental health issues, craziness, and everything else, right? So we only like legal, good, responsible gun owners. Any of the other stuff we don't want, we don't like. It doesn't help us in any way. So if you're going to go down the path of gun ownership, the ammunition, the training, the safe, the proper storage, the training should be the more expensive part of your life in the firearms world. It is a big responsibility to own. They can do terrible things in the wrong hands, and we don't want that at all.
That's well said. Ben, I'm going to need a moment to pause. Not in real life. Don't pause the podcast we're doing right now. Don't stop listening, my friends, by any means. But that was such a powerful moment for me that it takes me just a moment to absorb all of that. You know, Ben, to my knowledge, you've never shot a gun, I believe.
That is correct.
That is correct. And I was at Silencer Co. in Utah and actually shot my first gun just a few months ago.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and that was a great experience. It was cool. I shot the ceiling on an automatic weapon because they told me to lean forward, and I didn't. And it pulled back, and I hit the ceiling. But it was my first time.
It happens.
That's what happens on your first time,
Yep.
right? There's a little bit of that
So
stuff.
what'd you think?
I still sit that I don't need to go out and shoot guns regularly.
No.
But I can absolutely appreciate the engineering and the moment that I had with that extraordinary, and they gave me about 4 different ones. So those extraordinary creations of engineering. And let's be fair, it's been generations of evolution in that technology to come to the point that it's in right now. You know what I mean? Like, we started with we started with bow and arrow, right? And then we
Yep.
went to the black powder.
Well,
and
I think it was a sling and a rock, as I'm named David, but
And who was that other guy?
some guy.
Some guy. He got whooped, right?
Yeah.
He got whooped. Yeah. David became king.
Nobody remembers the guy that lost.
The big guy.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's so I would say that respectfully, I enjoyed that experience very much.
Yeah. And in a safe, controlled environment
Extremely. And
where they can teach you
and they did.
cater you through it so that you can have the quote unquote scary experience.
And I've never thought it to be, from my perspective, I've never thought it to be a scary experience to
Good.
shoot a gun ever.
Yeah.
And it's always fascinated me in the sense of how things are made. I mean, we're in that world of how things are made, right? And
Great TV show on.
it is.
Discovery
Shout out
Channel
to those guys. If you
History
ever want to
Channel.
shout us out, go ahead. Yeah, how it's made. Gunn Show Podcast and MTD. Go ahead. But I'm very grateful that they presented everything in such a professional, profound, and as you said, with training and safety manner that allowed myself, and I was there with Heimbuch as well,
Yeah.
and my buddy Tim got
Great
to shoot
chucks.
also. Yeah, incredible chucks. That's what made that hammer that's sitting in that
Yeah,
chair right
great
there,
chucks.
actually. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the summary of it. My answer is that I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, what we want is someone to be able to walk into a room or be around or see a firearm and not be scared. We want you to have the mental capability and knowledge to know that, oh, that's a 9mm pistol. I drop the mag like this, I rack the slide like this, and that's how I make it safe to make sure that I know that I'm good, right? If women in general, men, everybody else can just learn the safety side of it and take the fear out of it of just walking in and being like, oh my God, there's a gun, and run. I want you to be empowered safely. I don't want you to live in fear of an inanimate object that just because you don't know how to use it.
We're taught fear every day, though, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I'm still scared of the blenders. I got my hand stuck as a kid.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's what you're scared of, blenders?
Yeah.
I'd like to add for everyone listening and watching right now that this is...
Oh, sorry, beaters. In between the beaters, I got my hand stuck.
Those were
not the
tough
blenders.
too. That to your point, guns are never going to disappear. They're not, and that people like you, Dave, are so very important to allowing the people who do sit in the side of fear to slowly get back into that area that if one's sitting around, that they're not afraid. Advocacy like yours, belief like yours, training like yours, teaching like yours, you've helped me, and I'm an open-minded person. I'm sure that you can help some of the ones that are more closed as well. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
I just think as a person that loves experiences, because I'm that generation, we like experiences.
We do, don't we?
More than things, right?
We're Gen Xers that just like to try everything.
Yeah. That you should be able to, in a safe manner, controlled area, try it once, and then go from there, right? I'm not saying you got to go buy 300, 400, 500 guns and 10,000 rounds of ammo and that kind of stuff and prep and everything else, but...
We got you for that.
Yeah, just come by. We're good. But just, if you're scared of something, go try it. Jump out of the plane. Go bungee jumping. Go whitewater rafting.
In all subjects, right?
Yeah.
If you're scared of something, face that thing. Go for it. Yeah.
Get back on the horse.
Have you done those things, by the way? We're down to like 50 seconds, but have you
Yeah,
done those things?
I've
Whitewater
gone-
rafting,
Oh, yeah,
skydiving, yeah?
I jumped out of a plane in New Zealand. I bungee jumped in Vegas.
That's right. Me too, buddy.
Whitewater rafted.
That's why I appreciate you.
I know we're going to go over time and you can yell at me, but the best part is when you hear the rafting guide stop telling you to paddle. And then my dad turned around and was like, why did he stop telling us to paddle? And then you just see him stuck between the raft and the rock with his legs sticking up. And my dad reached down, grabbed him, pulled him back in. And he's like, oh, thanks.
The guide?
Yeah.
Have you done like class 4s and 5s? Yeah, that's pretty epic, right?
Since 5's like the top of the list.
Because it could be Niagara Falls or it could be a rapid that you can live through.
Yeah. No, 6 is the one that
Is there a 6?
There is a 6. From what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
Leave it in the comments if so.
There is a 6, and basically a 6 becomes a 5 when somebody shoots it and lives.
So Niagara Falls becomes a 5 because somebody rode a barrel to the bottom of it and lived?
That's what I understand. But I'm also not an expert in waterfalls and barrels and whitewater rafting.
We'll work on that
but
soon.
I understand it becomes a 5 when somebody goes through it and lives.
Okay, well then, this
It's
is
the
how we are
details.
ending the Gun Show podcast today. Dave, you, my friend, are always a pleasure and a joy. Thank you for educating me. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for allowing us all to be a bit safer in something that you believe in, and I can certainly sit beside you and talk about for sure.
And thank you for having us down. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, my friends. Thank you all for watching. We know time is your most important and valuable commodity. It's the one thing we can't manufacture or get back. So thank you for joining us on the Gun Show. This is my buddy Dave. Check out their website, VKTRIND.com. Call it Vector, call it VKTR. That's totally up to you, but check them out either way. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again soon.